Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of research and dive deep into a single fascinating topic.
Absolutely.
And today, we're looking at something that impacts billions around the world: poverty.
And we're not just talking about the surface level here.
We're going to be digging into the systemic roots, the far-reaching consequences, and even exploring some potential solutions.
So let's get started.
Okay, so let's dive right in. When we talk about the causes of poverty, there are so many factors at play.
But one thing that really jumps out from the research, especially this UNESCO study, is the power of education.
It's true.
Education is often referred to as the great equalizer, and for good reason.
This UNESCO study actually found that for every year of schooling a girl receives, her future income increases by up to 20%.
Now, that's just one data point, but it illustrates the incredible ripple effect that education can have on breaking the cycle of poverty.
Wow, 20%, that's huge.
It makes you realize how limited opportunities become when you don't even have access to basic education.
Exactly.
In many developing regions, children don't have access to consistent primary or even secondary education.
So when they enter adulthood, their ability to compete in the job market is severely limited.
And this lack of education feeds directly into the challenges of unemployment, which brings us to the work of Browning and their colleagues.
Right, you mentioned this idea of a vicious cycle.
Can you unpack that a bit?
Absolutely.
What Browning and his team found is that unemployment can lead to poverty, but it also works in the opposite direction. Poverty can make it harder to find a job.
If you're in a community with limited resources, struggling to make ends meet, your chances of obtaining the skills and training needed for a good job are significantly diminished.
Like a trap.
You're already behind, and the system makes it incredibly difficult to catch up.
Precisely. And this is where the issue of inequality rears its head.
We were looking at research from the London School of Economics.
And they really highlighted how discrimination based on gender, race, or class can create roadblocks to opportunity. Think about unequal access to credit or housing discrimination.
These systemic inequalities create an uneven playing field from the start.
It's not just about personal choices. It's about the environment you're born into, the opportunities that are readily available or systematically denied.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting.
We've been talking about the causes.
But what about the consequences of poverty?
It's not just about struggling to make ends meet.
There are far-reaching effects that impact health,
Education.
and even mental well-being.
You're right.
It's a cascading effect.
One of the biggest consequences of poverty is poor health,
We're talking about a lack of access to affordable health care and nutritious food.
which leads to higher rates of chronic illnesses and conditions.
It's this awful cycle, isn't it?
Poor health makes it harder to find a job.
And no job makes it even more difficult to afford health care and healthy food.
Exactly.
And it's not just about physical health.
Poverty can also take a toll on mental well-being.
Think about the constant stress of financial insecurity
The pressure of providing for your family.
and the lack of opportunities.
It's a heavy burden to bear.
And it can lead to depression
Anxiety.
and other mental health issues.
It's heartbreaking to think about the impact of poverty on children.
I mean, imagine growing up in a community where you don't have access to good schools or extracurricular activities.
Right.
Children raised in poverty often miss out on crucial opportunities for learning and development,
They may face challenges in school
struggle to keep up with their peers.
and ultimately find themselves trapped in a cycle of poverty.
It's a reminder that poverty is not just an economic issue.
It's a social issue that can have devastating consequences for generations to come.
And that brings us to the question of moving forward.
What are some potential solutions?
Well, the first step is recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
This is a multifaceted issue that requires a multi-pronged approach.
So what does that look like in practice?
We need to start by investing in education.
Providing everyone with access to quality education is fundamental.
That means expanding access to schools
Improving curriculum.
and offering teacher training.
It's about giving children the tools they need to build a better future for themselves. And education is just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Absolutely.
What else needs to be considered when we're looking at solutions?
Alongside education, creating job opportunities is crucial.
But we can't just focus on creating any jobs. We need to think about developing skills and training that align with the demands of the modern workforce.
It's about equipping people with the skills they need to not just enter the workforce, but to thrive in it.
Exactly.
And that might involve investing in vocational training programs, apprenticeships, or even supporting entrepreneurship.
Right, giving people the tools and resources that they need to create their own opportunities.
And we can't talk about solutions without addressing the elephant in the room. Inequality.
Absolutely.
Reducing inequality is paramount.
That means tackling discrimination head on, whether it's based on gender, race, religion, or any other factor.
It's about creating a level playing field where everyone has an equal shot at success.
And that sense of a level playing field, of fair opportunity, that feels really key, doesn't it? It's about dismantling those systemic barriers that hold people back. So, as we start to wrap up this deep dive, what's the biggest takeaway for you? What's that one thing you really want our listeners to walk away with?
For me, it's the interconnectedness of it all. We need to stop looking at poverty as just an individual problem. It's a complex system with interconnected causes and consequences, and as such, it requires a comprehensive approach to create meaningful change.
So it's not enough to just focus on one solution in isolation. We need to address education, job creation, and inequality in tandem.
Precisely. We need to approach this challenge with a holistic lens, recognizing that change in one area can create a ripple effect, impacting countless other areas.
It's about understanding those connections, those ripple effects. And for you, listener, I hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective on poverty, its root causes, and the paths to a more just and equitable future. It's a complex issue, but understanding it is the first step towards being a part of the solution. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into poverty. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking. Remember, we can all play a role in creating a more just and equitable world. Until next time, keep diving deep.